Whew, it is a hot one today. I am in Texas coming at you. Brandon here, registered nurse from the United States who lives and works in Sweden, back in Texas today. And I am catching up with my family, taking care of some loose ends and visiting old friends, that sort of thing. And I'm in this sweltering heat. It's actually not that bad considering how bad it can be. It is right now June 2025. And in August it's a lot worse. Last year I was here, it was like 47 degrees Fahrenheit, in the triple digits Fahrenheit, and today it's warm and very hot compared to Sweden, so it's about 33 degrees. So I thought I'd do a little video here out in this park, in this nature preserve here in Texas. It's very hard to find places like this actually in the area that I live. You kind of have to drive a bit out to find this kind of stuff, but it's here. It is around noon time right now, like I said, 33 degrees, and yeah, so I just want to kind of do a video about things that I've noticed coming to Texas as a person who's been living in Europe or / Sweden, Scandinavia for almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in about a month and a half, so August 1st coming up, 2025, I'll have been living in Sweden for 4 years. So what are the first things that I notice? Now, of course, there's a lot of things that I notice, and some of these things are positive, some are negative, some are kind of neutral. Some things I kind of already was aware of, and they're just imprinted on my mind a little bit more. And I'm going to put my sunglasses on because the sun is reflecting up in my face, and it is no bueno. Anyways, sorry if I'm sweating, just so you know. Like I said, it's hot and I am a huge sweater. But yeah, so first thing that I noticed coming here after being abroad for 4 years is flags. Now, this is nothing totally unusual for me living in Sweden, because in Sweden they do have a lot of Swedish flags out, but they tend to be like the small type of flags. There may be a tiny little flag hanging out someone's door that's the size of a piece of notebook paper or smaller even. Or you may see it like in some Swedish meatballs at IKEA. But here in Texas, the amount of flags, it just seems like, I don't know if I'm not used to it because I've been abroad for 4 years, or if it really has increased a lot, but the amount of flags that are out are just insane. It gives me a little bit of trauma, actually. I grew up in a religion. America is a place of many different religious faiths, which is interesting compared to Sweden, because Sweden's more secular, although there are many different religions, but nothing like here in the States. And I grew up in a branch of Christianity that, as children, we weren't allowed to do certain things, such as saluting the flag. Now, that's not something that's done here or done in Sweden, but in America, I know it's a very foreign concept to a lot of people in other countries, the whole saluting of the flag, but it's something that people take very serious here in the United States. And growing up, we were supposed to salute the flag, put our hand on our heart, and say this pledge to the flag every morning at the beginning of class. And because of my religious beliefs growing up, we weren't allowed to do that, and so it gives me a little bit of trauma, because we respect the flag, we respect the country and everything, but we couldn't do that pledge because that was a sign of, in our beliefs, a sign of worship to an idol. And so, yeah, coming back, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, it's a little bit traumatizing, because like I don't really deal with that even in Sweden, which is a very secular land. So anyway, just a thought, everybody's got their opinions on stuff like that. Second thing, of course, the heat. Oh my goodness, it's just like, I'm ready to go back to Sweden just for the heat situation. One of the big reasons I moved to Sweden is because you can always do something about the cold. But like here in Texas, it's just brutal in the summers. And our winters are even worse than Sweden, because it actually gets colder. I think it has to do with the geography of Texas, and the part of Texas I live in is the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Or I say I live in, I grew up in, my family's here in this area. But yeah, the heat here is just absolutely brutal. And it's not just hot, it's humid. Yesterday, I haven't checked today, yesterday the humidity was 83%. Number 3 is convenience. So I think Sweden in many ways is more convenient. Oh, can you hear that'll be number 4. The other thing, you hear the bugs, the locusts. But anyways, number 3, yeah, the convenience of everything. And there's places that are open 24/7. In America, it's like so much easier. If you say you work a 9 to 5, it's much easier to go to the bank or take care of necessary things or go see a doctor or whatever. But like in Sweden, it seems like everybody's operating on the same time scale. But like here, you know, there's pharmacies that are open 24 hours. There are a few banks that are open 24 hours. That the bank I used to go to here, called Wells Fargo, they actually had some branches that were open in the grocery stores that were open 24 hours. May not be the case just in the last couple of years, but before I left the United States, yeah. When you go grocery shopping, you can find anything you want to. If you're into organic, natural stuff, they have a lot of real good quality stuff. That's and then the fourth thing I would say is this. You hear the locusts? Like, the sounds are so different. We have a lot of sounds I kind of miss growing up in Texas. I don't care for this sound, this locust that you hear in the background, because it just makes me feel hotter. Something about the association of a locust and heat, they just go together, and it makes you feel hotter, in my opinion. But I do miss the birds. I miss crickets and things like that. I don't really hear a lot of those kinds of sounds back where I come from in Sweden. Another thing, the nature situation. So like, I'm here in a park, this is a nature reserve, but I can hear the highway like right there. It's like so hard to get anywhere where you truly feel like you're secluded and, you know, you've got some peace. You know, living in Sweden, the town that I live in is Malmö, and there's like over 300,000 people. And this town here, this is where I grew up, and it's a suburb of a town called Arlington, which is 300,000 people. So you're kind of comparing apples to apples here. But it's so much noisier here in Texas compared to in Sweden. Like, even in Sweden, like in Malmö, that's the third biggest city, you know, big by Swedish standards, right? But at nighttime on the weekends, it's pretty quiet, even in the downtown area. But here, you know, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. It's just like road noise, construction going on. Part of it, I think, is a lot of people are moving here. Last time I checked, I don't know what it is now, but at one point I checked recently, it was like 300 people. The population here was growing by 300 people every single day. And a lot of people are coming here from other countries. A lot of people are coming here from New York and from California. It's been this way since most of my adult life. And yeah, it's just the way it is. So there's like constant construction going on here in this state. Another thing I would say too, that's a big difference, is I feel more comfortable when it comes to when you're interacting with people in some ways, not always. So I'll give you one example. So in Sweden, and I've talked about this before, and I've taken down the videos because I got so much flack from Swedish people about this, and they're like, this does not happen. And that's staring. They don't all stare, but one day I put a video out and I said that, you know, in Sweden, I feel like you don't even say anything. I'm wearing like clothes I bought in a Swedish store, so I'm not dressing like outlandish. I'm not making noise. I'm not listening to my cell phone on loud, and I'm just standing there on the bus, and people will stare, and it's mostly older people, and they will stare and just about burn a hole through your soul. And so I talked to a Swedish friend of mine about this, and he said they're judging you. You know that. You know, and I hear different things from everybody, but basically it's like Swedish people can be quite judgmental, and a lot of it has to do with the whole lagom, jantelaw, and stuff like that. And I can do a whole nother video on that, but basically it's like they're sizing you up. And so he said what you need to do, and he's a really funny guy, one of my Swedish friends. He's about 50-something years old, and he's not your typical Swedish person. He actually grew up in Sweden, and then he lived in Chicago and did au pair there, so he's seen both worlds. And he's very proud of Sweden, but then at the same time, there's a lot of things he likes about America. He's seen both sides. So he told me, he said, when you see a person staring at you, you need to just like stare at them back in the face. And either they'll look away. Well, they don't. They just keep staring. I've tried that. Or he said you need to ask them, you like what you see. I can't do that. That's not my personality, but I thought it was funny. And the thing is, when Swedish people hear this, they say, we don't do that. We don't do that. You're making this up. You're just insecure. But the interesting thing is, when I talk to other foreigners, they say, yes, it's a true thing. I have had friends that are Latino friends. It's not just because I'm American. There are Latino friends I've had come visit me in Sweden. I have friends from Germany that have done it, which I heard Germany has their own thing. So that to be said, I don't ever feel like I'm being stared at in America. I feel like you can do whatever, you can wear whatever, you can just stand there and you don't have to worry about anyone staring at you. And like in Sweden, if they do that. What I've tried to do now is like smile or wave or just say, hey, you know, like hello, just to be nice, and they'll just like burn a hole through your soul, you know. It's like kind of creepy. And I've heard some explanations for that. But like here in the States, sometimes people accidentally will stare at you, you know, just because they're like daydreaming. But you kind of know, because it's kind of like they're, you know, like looking straight at you, kind of like through you or off. And then if you like smile at them or whatever, then they'll like wave or hi, you know, and they'll be nice and friendly. But like it's like in Sweden, yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of a cultural thing I've noticed. Another thing is just the landscape is so different here. It's like I've only been here a few days, so I'm saying I miss. You know, in Sweden, I just find it more interesting, much prettier. You're in the woods or you're by the sea, and then like this is what you get. This is beautiful right here. You know, so it's like, I mean, it has its own kind of beauty, but I just find I prefer the Swedish landscape and surroundings a lot more than, you know, what you got going on here. Another big thing is the food. Oh my goodness, there's so much good food here, so many delicious restaurants, and we got good restaurants and stuff in Sweden, some places I like, but I just feel like there's a whole lot more variety here. The flavors, we're close to Mexico, and so the influence of Mexico is just amazing. I love spicy food, and it sure is good to be home and be able to enjoy that. And I can, to some extent, try to cook some of those things, but it's a little bit hard to obtain some of the ingredients and quite expensive to buy certain things. There's a lot of stuff that, you know, if they're not in season, you can't get them, or they're like, I bought some jalapenos the other day, and in 3 days they were already moldy, I think because they shipped them from really far away to Sweden. But here it's not really such an issue. And in addition to that, like the whole variety and, you know, buying organic, and like if you're a keto dieter or a carnivore diet or a vegan, I mean, there's so much vegan stuff here. Like I've done vegan before, I've done vegetarian, tried keto, you know, because I worked as a diabetic nurse, so I want to try these different diets out. And it's so easy to find these things, but like Sweden, it'll cost you an arm and a leg, you know, to do that kind of stuff. And of course there are some cheaper places. Well, there's cheaper places here too as well that you can go to and get stuff like things that are about to expire, you know, you can buy them cheaper. We got the same thing over here. But you definitely get a lot more bang for your buck when it comes to food. So definitely a positive. And just, I don't know, I just feel like Texas is so ugly. There's some cool things about Texas, and I don't want people that live in Texas to feel bad for me saying this, but when you compare it to someone like Sweden, it's just like, you know, this is the best you get. You know, you get some old dirt. I mean, this is beautiful right here. Texas level beautiful. We do have some nice places, but Texas is so big, it's like the size of France, and so if you want to go see stuff, you know, you have to take vacation off work, get in the car, drive for several hours, you know. So we do have some neat places, but like most of the cities where most people live, like say here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or Arlington or Houston, it's not so pretty. It's quite boring landscape. It's like this is a nature reserve, and there is a neighborhood like right there. It just like backs up to the houses, and you know, I mean, I'm grateful, but after living in Sweden, you know, I used to like this kind of stuff, but like after living in Sweden, it's just like this, it just doesn't compare, you know what I mean? So there is a lake here in this reserve, but you cannot fish, you cannot eat the fish, because all of the people's fertilizer is running off their yards from the neighborhood into the water, so it would not be safe to eat. People still fish, but they just catch and release, you know? You hear it, the locust? So I do miss the sounds of nature, but Sweden has its own sounds of nature that, you know, I like. I feel like there's more different bird sounds, at least, so here in Texas compared to Sweden. You can probably hear them hopefully in the video. And I'm like getting red. It is so hot, I can't wait. I need to finish this video up so I can go in when it's cool and get some air conditioning. I got overheated like 2 days ago and got really sick. I was only out in the heat for 2 hours, just trying to move some furniture and help my mom with some stuff. I hope y'all enjoy my content. You know, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more. I really hope this content is entertaining, and you know, if there's other things you want me to talk about, you know, let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for all your love and support. And the grasshopper